Little League, a phrase forever synonymous with baseball and youth sports since 1939, unless you were a girl. In 1974, 35 years after the first Little League game was played, a new chapter in youth sports was written. It was the birth of Little League softball and female participation in the Little League program.
Earlier today, 11 and 12-year-old girls from Dix Hills, New York and Medford, Oregon met for the Little League Softball Championship. Watch this running catch by short fielder Robin Wayner of Dix Hills.
A program that would provide young girls around the world with the opportunity to play organized softball and baseball in their communities, learn valuable life skills, create memories that would last a lifetime, and be welcomed formally into the Little League family. Over these past 50 years, Little League softball has grown and developed from its early start in 1974, overcoming obstacles and challenges through the journey to develop the millions of girls with game that can call themselves Little League alumna today. Faced with gender inequality, limited resources, and cultural resistance, the Little League softball program would be heavily influenced by the world around it. An increased focus on women's sports led to a growing interest in girls' softball. Many girls and young women wanted to participate in organized sports, and softball quickly became one of those options. As the women's sports movement grew in the 1970s, the passing of Title IX in the United States would play a crucial role for girls in sports. These leaders of change helped inspire young girls to pursue sports and have a positive impact on the development of girls' sports programs like Little League softball.
Throughout the Little League program, from 39 all the way up until 1974, there were girls that were interested in playing baseball. However, they were denied access. By 1972, there were some lawsuits that were going around where girls were trying to be able to play Little League baseball. And Little League kind of recognized that and realized that there was a kind of a hunger for girls to want to play Little League, but they were still hesitant about girls playing baseball.
A national problem with people being against it. There were, demonstrations against it. There were kind of wild claims of what would happen if girls weren't allowed to play, and pretty wild claims, about girls getting hurt and all that kind of thing, which obviously never materialized.
And in 1973, at the Little League International Congress, there was a discussion about starting Little League program for girls, which eventually became the Little League softball program.
There weren't a lot of opportunities for girls in team sports at that age level, at the sort of the classic Little League age level of 9 to 12. So it made sense for Little League to start a softball program to give girls the same opportunities.
It was a time period where the idea of girls playing sports was just not normal like it is today. I think that it took them a little bit of time to kind of adapt to the changes in society.
It wasn't until Maria Pepe was asked to step away from her team in 1972 that it drew the attention from the National Organization for Women. For 2 years, Maria, her family, as well as girls in other states, fought for their chance to be on the Little League field. On November 7, 1973, a ruling by New Jersey Judge Sylvia Pressler would aid in the launch of the Little League softball program.
Maria Pepe was one of about 20 girls nationally who were suing Little League for the right to play, being underwritten by the National Organization for Women. Her case wasn't that much different than the others, except for the fact that it was near New York City in Hoboken. New Jersey, and you had this kind of giant magnifying glass on her case. And her case made national headlines. You know, it was on the nightly news.
Because there were other girls in other states. There was a big case in Michigan. There was a big case in Delaware as well. And they were suing the organization to allow girls to participate in the program. And Little League had won quite a few of those cases. In New Jersey, specifically Maria's case, Little League ended up losing. And the court in New Jersey said Little League is a part of Americana. It's played on public land often, and girls should have the opportunity to play.
Because it took so long, it took about a 2-year period. As a child, it felt like a miracle had just happened. I couldn't fight in court, I couldn't fight on the field. And so I dedicated my prayers every night to the Blessed Mother. It was an immense relief also, because having to sit through that for so long and seeing your name in the newspaper and the status of the court case and just this whole disruption of everyday life in Little League, it was an immense relief that my life could now go on. And I no longer had to wonder what the outcome of the case was going to be. It was a long battle. I really just wanted to get back out and play.
In January of 1974, Little League created a whole softball program for girls, and in June of that year expanded its baseball opportunities to girls. But the 1960s and 70s brought numerous challenges for Little League. However, because of the lessons learned during that time and those who had the integrity to step up to the plate, the program has now grown stronger, with nearly 500,000 girls playing Little League all around the world today.
I think that the girls had been asking for something like that for quite a while, even before 1974, so it was very accepted. And of course, once we got the ball rolling, everybody was on board with it. And we had no problem the first year fielding 4 teams.
Came out here for a tryout, and you looked around and you saw parents and coaches and clipboards, and you know, you saw an organization, and it really created a lot of excitement.
We were thrilled. I mean, for the most part, you know, we tagged along with everybody else here at the baseball park. You know, we got to play in some of their practices. They let us do that, but you know, that was the extent of it. For us to have our own game was thrilling.
I was really, truly happy inside, but there was a part of me that was sad too, that now I was too old to play. And when my dad reminded me that I had to think about the girls that would now be able to play, and so it helped to heal the fact that I wasn't going to be able to play anymore.
It all started with a group of parents, coaches, and community members who shared a vision to provide girls with the same opportunities that boys had enjoyed for years. With the world picking up speed on supporting women's sports, the development of Little League softball began. But like any first endeavor, there were challenges with constraints on facilities. Early on, Little League softball often had limited resources compared to its baseball counterpart. Funding, equipment, and support for girls softball were not as readily available.
Little League at that time, you know, every child didn't come with their own bat and their own helmet, and if they caught, their own catcher's equipment. So we shared.
A lot of girls bought their own stuff and brought it, because we weren't supplied with, we were supplied with basics. Wellswood Little League was very receptive and very supportive, so we had our bag of equipment and a couple of bats, a couple of helmets, and most of our games were at the main field, called it the major field. Actually, not until we won the championship did we receive additional fields, and from that point had our own girls softball field.
Over the years, the program has continued to evolve, thanks to the support of communities, volunteers, and organizations to provide even more opportunities for young girls to participate in organized softball. Cultural resistance to Little League softball, especially in its early years, was not uncommon and often stemmed from traditional gender norms and expectations regarding girls' participation in sports.
I believe at that time, the leadership of the Little League program believed that there were physiological differences, there obviously are between boys and girls, and that there was a belief that the girls physically perhaps weren't able to play in a competitive sport with boys at the time.
And part of that conservatism was, gender roles. That extended to the ball field too, and there were excuses for it, none of which were valid.
There just was so many different opinions. I really feel deep in my heart that my parents gave me the most support. They had to put up with me every day. I was constantly asking about the case, the status of when I could play again. And when other parents and kids would make harsh comments, my parents were the ones that were always there. I didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling that there was this big population of people that were rallying behind me. Maybe over time, as the case advanced, there was some medical testimonies and doctors were testifying about girls' bone strength at that age. I think I was feeling like I was having a little more support. I was like, yeah, Mom, the doctor, he said, my bones are okay. It's like my bones are just as good as the boys.
Overcoming cultural resistance required a shift in societal attitudes and an understanding that girls should have equal opportunities to participate in sports. Advocacy and education played crucial roles in breaking down these barriers, and the success and popularity of the Little League softball program over the years have contributed to changing the overall cultural perceptions of girls in sports.
In 2004 was the 30th anniversary of when the softball program started, as well as female participation in baseball. In the Little League World Series, we invited Maria Pepe, who was the catalyst for allowing girls to play Little League baseball. She came to the Little League World Series and she spoke and threw out the first pitch.
And they came over to me and asked if I would want to meet Dr. Hale. Now, I had always remembered Dr. Hale's name because he was always in the newspaper, and it seemed like he was the person that was fighting against me. And so I thought it was important for me to meet him, of course. He came over, we shook hands, and we sat together, and we stared at each other for a few minutes. And then he said to me, he looked at me and he said, Maria, I want you to know that my granddaughter plays. And I tell you, it was such a healing moment for me to hear that his granddaughter was having happiness, and there was happiness in his family, and that he had the courage to tell me that, even though I didn't have that chance. It really meant a lot, and it was really one of my personal healing moments was to hear him tell me that. It was really a great moment.
The birth of Little League softball was not just about softball. It was about empowerment, inclusion, and the belief that young girls deserved every opportunity to shine. It was the beginning of a remarkable journey that continues to inspire hundreds of thousands of girls around the world each year. While it was now officially started, growing the Little League softball program in the 1980s required grassroots efforts, community engagement, and a commitment to providing opportunities for girls in organized sports. Despite the challenges of that era, many successful Little League softball programs quickly became established and flourished, leaving a lasting impact on youth sports in local communities.